A proposed high-speed rail line that would initially run between Toronto and London has become part of the election conversation in southwestern Ontario. Joining us now to explain what's at stake from our studio at Western University in London, our Ontario Hub's journalist, Mary Baxter. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, Jayanne.
Now, I know we are in the midst of a provincial election right now, but I want to go back 4 years ago. The Ontario Liberals had proposed a high-speed rail line that would run through southwestern Ontario. Tell me exactly what they were promising.
Well, at the time, there weren't a lot of details. They knew they wanted to run something between Toronto's Union Station and Windsor. And they knew that they wanted to do high-speed rail. High-speed rail is, it's maybe not faster than a speeding bullet the way Superman is, but it's still pretty fast. About 250 to 300 kilometers, I think they can get those trains up to, even a little bit more these days, I think. So they were promising high-speed rail, but it was also a vision about connecting the cities in southwestern Ontario.
Now, tell me about the progress that's been made on that idea.
A fair bit, in some respects. Some people would say maybe not enough. Others would say maybe too much. But in 2016, there was a consultant's report published that identified stops along the way, and there are 7, and it also identified the route, which would be using mostly existing rail corridors between Toronto and Kitchener, and then between Kitchener and London, they would actually build a whole new corridor, and then using a combination of existing and new corridors going from London to Windsor. The other thing about it was that they decided to do it in 2 phases. One thing I forgot to mention is that with high-speed rail, it's important to remember that it's electrified rail as opposed to using any other kind of fuel. So they also established a timeline, a vision of getting the first phase to London done by 2025, and then maybe 6 years after that, getting the line right through to Windsor. They established kind of a rough budget of, I think it's somewhere around $20 billion. And then this year, in 2018, the Liberal government actually made a commitment in their budget, an $11 billion commitment to the first phase of the high-speed rail project. Again, that's to London. And then also specifically in this year's budget dedicated, I think, roughly around $19 million. And that would go towards things like the environmental assessment that's needed before construction can take place.
Now, you mentioned the Liberal Party. Tell me about the other political parties. What have they been saying on the campaign trail?
Well, initially, I think all of the parties were really enthusiastic about the vision of high-speed rail. How can you not be? You know, something that's going to connect communities and maybe be an economic boon for the region, and also maybe help to solve some of Toronto's housing crisis by making other areas a little bit more reasonable to reach and to commute from. But then they started to hear a lot of opposition, a lot of it coming from the area between Kitchener and London, with rural residents really concerned about things about the line severing farms and severing roads, because again, it would have to be an electrified corridor, and they'd have to actually create barriers around it. So then that makes people worried about how are they going to conduct their farming business. Other people are really worried about what's going to happen to the Via Rail service once this goes in. The political parties, the PCs and the NDP in particular, have said that they want to continue with the environmental assessment, but they want to open it up to other alternatives, so like other routes or other types of technology as well. And the Green Party has said, well, let's just not do high-speed rail. Let's instead, let's go and look at high-performance rail, which is just basically a bunch of improvements on the existing rail systems to get them a little bit faster and maybe increasing the frequency of some of the trains.
Now, regardless of what government forms come election night, the issue of transportation is an important one for southwestern Ontario, right?
It's a really huge issue here in southwestern Ontario. I talked to one person who commutes to Guelph. She's a professor at the University of Guelph, and she lives in London. And for her, she has to live in Guelph during the week because it's just too stressful to try to commute daily between Guelph and London. And so having something like high-speed rail or some sort of intercity transit option that would really be life-changing for her. And in the Kitchener and Waterloo region, there's concerns about how so much gridlock is happening on the 401. I talked to one executive with Manulife, and he said that they've experienced at times people who might be interested in working in Kitchener and or in their office in Waterloo and commuting from another community, but they try out the commute on the 401 and they just don't want to do that every day. So it's affecting business, it's affecting the economy, and there's a real need to do something as soon as possible on this issue.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mary. Of course, we'll be following that story after the election as well. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, Jayanne.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.